Just going to hit a few highlights that I thought were important. The switch to the science of reading. There's a great 6-part podcast. I can't remember the name of the person who did it, who talked about this issue. And a lot of it, the switch over to teaching kids reading came out of Ohio State University. I think the governor is spot on with this. I was disappointed that there was a pushback from those folks who invented this alternate, recently modern way of reading, which has turned out to be a real problem. So very happy to hear the governor talk about making sure that institutions of higher education change the way the teachers are taught how to teach kids to read. So that was important. The child care issue, we use a general word of accessibility. The governor mentioned eligibility and funding, which are two parts of that. But the other part that is missing, and I think the governor generally talked about it, is the capacity issue. And I've mentioned this to a number of you before. We have, with various government regulations, the Step Up to Quality program, but a lot of federal regulations, in Ohio, there were 4,000, or 2/3 of the small daycare centers eliminated in the last 10 years. And the state does have some initiatives to encourage that, but this is more evangelical. You have to go out and find the people, and in many cases the people who used to do this in their neighborhood. That's been successful in Allen County because we have a Job and Family Services director and staff who really go out and they ask people to open these in their homes. And I think that's the only way to get it back. So we have to increase capacity. It's one thing to say you're eligible for funds and we're going to pay more money, but if there's no place to go, it doesn't help the working parent. So I think capacity has to be part of the discussion. I thought the governor's remarks regarding vision screening were excellent. Those are things that people just don't think about very often. If a child can't see, they can't read, they can't do a lot of things. Treasurer Sprague had an initiative which we funded, I think, in the last budget regarding the vision vehicles that went around the state. And I think, yeah, 2 budgets ago. Okay, thanks, Matt. And that's been very successful. It was initiated actually by the Ohio Optometric Society, if that's the name of it. So I think that's a small point, but a very important point. He talked about technical assistance for schools to create and operate school-based health facilities. We can't just give folks the money and say good luck with that. The technical assistance is needed, but the schools also need to do it. And we do have a problem often that we provide money for specific purposes, wraparound services, or a variety of things, and schools spend the money in different ways. And so we're not going to be able to solve these problems if the schools, and I think in some cases, have to be required to spend the money in the way that it is. So technical assistance is needed, but also requirements to create the facilities. I thought the idea of eliminating use of smartphones during the school day is a great idea. And the governor's, talked about in some cases encouraging it and all of that. And I suppose at some point there's an academic basis for the use of a smartphone, but I can't think of one. All of us, I think, learned to read here without the use of smartphones when we were in 3rd grade. So I think that is something to happen, important to happen beyond the bad content on the internet. And finally, I appreciate the governor's comments regarding Delta 8 banning the sale and also getting the legislation on marijuana passed. I know those are not exactly the same two things, but I put them in the same category. I'm hopeful that there'll be some discussions and we can get the marijuana bill passed in the next few months. We'll be here at least through the end of June, and but I think as always, the governor's very thoughtful, and as some have reminded me, but of course we have to be able to pay for the things that we're thinking about when we're being thoughtful.